Welcome into another episode of The Dinner Table with Carly, Cameron, and Chloe Marotta. I actually don't even know what episode it is now. I feel like we've done a decent amount, right? We're really getting into it here.
Yeah, love it. Episode 9, I think exactly, but it's crazy how we're, keeping it rolling. I like it.
We have a really fun guest coming on in Maty Wilke. She plays for Utah. She's from Beaver Dam. She also played at Wisconsin for a couple of seasons before transferring to Utah. So stick around for that interview. It was great. She talks about her transition, the transfer portal, finding her role at Utah, and some cool NIL deals there too. So it was great to talk to Maty, and I really enjoyed the interview.
Yeah, and if
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Cam.
We're gonna be doing this back and forth now. This is what our second episode where we've only done everybody not in the same room.
Right, exactly. It's funny.
So we're working through the breakups, but it was fun having Maty on. I thought she really gave like a great insight as to what it's like to be playing for an elite college basketball program and to be an elite player on that team. And I just love how she's opened up and was super friendly and warm. And so we'll get into that a lot later. But go ahead, Chloe, with what you were going to say.
No, you nailed it on the head. That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say if you haven't really watched Utah this year, they're up there in the Pac-12. They're top team in the country. They're phenomenal. They got a National Player of the Year on their team, and so it's a good one to watch.
All right, let's get into some topics that we would discuss at the dinner table tonight. So, first of all, I'm going to say, did you guys see the fire alarm go off at the Wisconsin-Indiana game yesterday? Did you guys see that?
No,
I did not.
Oh, the fire alarm, it's tied at 54 in the second half in Bloomington, and the fire alarms are going off. There's no announcement or anything. They just made everyone evacuate the building. So everyone leaves. I know. It was pretty crazy. Obviously, everyone's outside. It ended up being a 20-minute break in game action, and then the teams came back on, had like a 5-minute warm-up period before continuing the game. And, afterwards, so Wisconsin ended up losing the game. Head coach Greg Gard was just saying, like, yeah, it was a pretty good timeout for whoever pulled that fire alarm for the Hoosiers. But, yeah, it was tough to, like, have that break and for both teams to get back into it. But it was pretty interesting.
Who was the hotter team at the time the fire alarm went off?
So
no pun intended.
Indiana was up 15 in the first half, and then Wisconsin comes back, ties it. So they're on a run here and have all the momentum. Yeah, fire alarm. So the thing is, like, right when the game resumed, the Badgers took the lead for the first time in the game, but that was it. Then they ended up not scoring for the final 2 minutes of the game, and Indiana pulled out the win. So the Badgers have lost 6 of their last 8 games. They're 3-8 on the road this season, which is just tough, So
it's kind of been the story of college basketball a little bit.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to struggle on the road, even more so this year than ever before. Even all these, I think it's the most amount of top 25 teams lost on the road already this year in comparison to any other year. And we still have like a couple weeks left in the regular season. So winning on the road is tough for everybody, and Wisconsin's battling through that right now.
Same theme as last year for the Badgers, but honestly, this is a different team, and this is a better team. So I do have faith that they'll pull out of this. And it was just tough against Khalil Ware. He was back for the Hoosiers. We didn't face him the first time. He's a really, really good player, and they just had trouble defending him, especially at 20 in the first half. So yeah, wow. That's what I want to talk about. What do you guys have?
Wait, I have a question on it. Did they warm up again?
Yeah, for 5 minutes before resuming the game.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that. 20 minutes sitting out, that's another halftime. So, yeah. Wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Yeah, it was so bizarre.
The ghost of Bob Knight pulled that fire alarm as soon as Wisconsin started coming back.
Seriously.
It was really strange. And it was weird. There was no announcement. Like, they're just like, evacuate the building. So it was just like, everyone's like, where's the announcement? And then Indiana ended up tweeting out just saying, oh, like, there's fire alarms going off. We had to evacuate. But there wasn't really, Matt LePay said there was some smoke in the elevator, but I don't know. There wasn't really a explanation.
They do some funky stuff down there. We played down there when I was at Marquette with Sam Hauser, Marcus Howard, and we got absolutely boat raced like right from the get go. But I just remember like it was one of the weirder, crazy environments I've ever. It feels like you're like in the old school, like the biggest high school gym you've ever seen in your life, essentially. But they know how to like win games, and I feel like they would go to any. I honestly, this is a joke, but like as soon as they start coming back down from 15, I could totally see somebody being like, "Nope, we got to stop this." Like that's how dedicated they are to their basketball program.
You forget
Wow.
I'm a Hoosier, Cam. I feel you're talking about them.
I
You're gonna
know,
go
I
there.
know, well, I know. I'm just saying when I mean,
Yeah.
you know exactly.
What else, Chloe? What do you have?
I mean, like I talk about her every single podcast. Everyone talks about her every single podcast. Caitlin Clark is a little bit away, actually. Let's look at the numbers, exactly what she's at. So she Pete Maravich scored 3,667 points in his career, and Caitlin Clark is at 3,617. So she's really close to breaking the all-time NCAA scoring record. And, you know, it's just so cool to see something like that when you're compared to Pete Maravich in college. And like, do you ever think you're going to grow up and be compared to someone like that? Like, it's incredible. And I mean, we talked about this with Maty Wilke a little bit, like just what everyone's looking at with women's basketball and every gym's packed and what Caitlin Clark has brought to NCAA. And I wanted to give this stat as well. Iowa's victory over Illinois earned 816,000 viewers on Sunday on FS1. So it was the most watched women's college basketball game ever on the network. And then what is crazy to hear about it is that previously Creighton men and UConn were at 709,000 viewers on Tuesday, which was the most watched Big East men's basketball game ever. And Iowa blew that out by over 100,000 viewers. So it's just insane. Like, not even to compare men's and women's basketball, but just to see, you know, like where we're going with this and the difference. And I mean, 100,000 viewers is a crazy difference. So
Yeah, no, it is insane. It's amazing how much Caitlin Clark and that Iowa team has boosted women's basketball, and you should compare it because for a long time men's basketball has been getting compared to women's basketball on the flip side, and now to see these numbers, it's insane. The one thing you guys know what's so crazy about Pistol Pete though, about his record?
No, give it to us.
No 3-point line. So he's had that record for that long, and he never had a 3-point line. That's how good Pistol Pete was, though. How about that?
That's insane.
I mean,
Yeah,
insane.
yeah. Think about how many points Caitlin Clark scored just from threes alone.
Just from the
Right.
three.
But even to be considered with Pistol Pete, like I mean, he's obviously like a legend in that aspect. So it's wild both ways.
Yeah.
Iowa has Ohio State this week. It's probably just going to continue breaking the record of most watched games. Chloe, what do you think of this matchup?
It's a very interesting matchup. Ohio State has clinched a share of the Big Ten championship. And so they've had a great season, and this is always a great matchup. They got J.C. Sheldon, who's their point guard on Ohio State, and she's just a fighter. You know, she came back to play her last season, and she's competitive as, you know, any competitive player in the NCAA. She's just aggressive. She's a good shooter. She does it all. And then they got Cody on the small forward kind of three position, and she's going to be a tough one to guard for Iowa. She's a big player who does it all. She's outside, inside, and between JC and her, it's going to be tough for Iowa. But then you look at Iowa, and Kate Martin right now is also up for Player of the Year, which, can you imagine two people on Iowa being up for Player of the Year is like crazy to think about. And so it's always going to be a tough competition, but I'm excited to watch this one. It's going to be very fast paced, if anything. So it'll be fun.
Watching Iowa, Indiana, it seemed like the Hawkeyes, though, they sometimes just don't have enough people step up on their team. And it felt like that against the Hoosiers.
Yeah, no, exactly. They don't have people that are stepping up in the right times. And it's tough. I think they're going to have to see Gabby Marshall is going to be a big one in this game. I think she's kind of like that X factor. When she finds her shots in her positions, she likes that corner three. And when she gets that and hits it, gives them an extra couple points in that area. I think that's really important for them. Kate Martin stepped up late in the game, Indiana. I'm going to need to see her step up maybe first quarter, have some of those same type of moves. So,
Chloe, how far do you think they're going to go in the tournament?
Iowa,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think that Iowa has a huge advantage going in the tournament, knowing how many fans they're going to have at every single arena they've had at the entire year. And so I think that is going to push them even further than their skill and talent. But I mean, I'm going to see them in the Final Four. I can't not say they're going to be in the Final Four.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you can't, it's such a tough.
I think they get knocked out a little earlier than what people are thinking.
I mean,
obviously, I want to see Caitlin Clark match up in the Final Four against LSU or South Carolina. Obviously, I think that's what everybody wants to see because talk about TV ratings, that'd be off the charts. But she's gonna have to go for like 40 a game because I like you said, those girls got to step up, but also they're just a little younger, not as good as I thought even her team was last year.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Monica Sonano was their post player last year, had a lot of experience, was older, and now they have a sophomore and Hannah Stolke, who's their post player. So it's totally different. You're totally right about that.
Yeah.
I also think like Caitlin's going to score 40 regardless, and it's not going to matter because.
But it might not be enough even, right?
Yeah, it might not be enough, and she's definitely going to need her teammates in that area. But they're experienced enough with 4 of their players who've been there before, and then also like Lisa Bluter, like their head coach, like she knows what she's talking about. But I know it's tough. I mean, they played Indiana, and Indiana had the game pretty much the whole time. And they're competitive, and there's a lot of better teams outside of the Big Ten.
That's the thing. There's just so many good teams too. I mean, Iowa's good. I'm not trying to knock them, but like just talking to Maty Wilke, like you could see Utah knocking them off if they ran into them, or any of those Pac-12 teams that you mentioned. I mean, it's gonna be tough for them. In the parity in women's college basketball is like better than it's ever been.
For sure. And I mean, one last thing about this is that, you're coming into a tournament that is so hyped up, but also it's Caitlin's potential last year. So you got to think she's going to put everything on the line. She's not, in my opinion, I don't know what her decision-making is, but going to the WNBA, her decision is going to be based off where she finishes up in the NCAA tournament. If she doesn't get to where she feels like, gives her enough. I mean, I'm thinking national championship game, Final Four. And if she's not there, does she go back for another year at Iowa, or does she go to the WNBA? And it's going to be interesting to see. So
I think it's a no-brainer for her to go back to college no matter what. Even if she won a national championship, I'd come back. I mean, she's going to be making more money to play in college.
Well, she'll make her WNBA salary plus her endorsements that carry over. So, but yeah. So
but,
you can't forget they don't.
I wonder what the maximum salary is in the WNBA. Maybe close to $1 million.
I'd be interesting to see this year. Like how
or maybe 500,000. Yeah, I wonder, but I think she could make that in NIL money regardless at Iowa. Who knows? Yeah. But who knows? I would come back.
I'm always an advocate of going back. I'll be honest. So.
Yeah.
I'm looking. It says. This is 2020, the highest paid players from 117 to 215. That has now grown to 234 for the 2023 season. So 234,000.
That's chump change for Caitlin Clark right now. I don't think I don't know. Obviously, she'd want to go play at another level, a higher level. But, I mean, if you have one more year, why would you not come back?
Yeah, it's going to be cool to see after this season. I mean, depending on Caitlin Clark goes or not, WNBA is already it's an insane difference compared to last year with the viewership. Especially because of what they're doing in college right now. And so it'll be interesting to see how that, goes up based off of, paid for revenue and that revenue share that the players will be getting based off of who comes to the games and things like that. But the other thing that we rarely talk about with WNBA is, she'll graduate from Iowa, maybe play in Final Four national championship game, and about a couple weeks later, she's going to WNBA training camps and going out to the draft. So, I mean, it goes right away. So her decision to go we're going to find out, right after the tournament. It's going to be, everyone's going to know.
Interesting. All right, another big topic of conversation is this court storming stuff. I mean, I don't even know why it seems like a simple resolution to me. You just wait 30 seconds and then let everyone storm the court. I don't know. What's the big deal here?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about that too, Car, but the only issue is it's tough to keep those. I think in most of these arenas, actually trying to keep them off the court because there's big fines in these conferences for teams that allow their fans to charge the court, but they just can't keep them off. Now, that's not the case everywhere. I think for most places, they do allow them to run on there. But obviously, so this past week, Wake Forest upset Duke at home. Duke is probably the team that is most, they get the court stormed on them most often. And I could see how, Shire had some words afterwards, especially with his guy, Kyle Filipkowski, getting his knee bumped into as a fan ran out. But now if you watch the aerial view of this, as the kids are running on the court from Wake Forest, Filipkowski kind of sticks his leg out. He kind of tries to give the dude a push, and the guy bumps into his knee. And it went from being like Kyle Filipkowski was going to be out for the season to injured knee to now in practice, like he's just a little sore. He'll be back to play like right away.
Oh no, that doesn't look
yeah.
good.
So like obviously all week you got Jay Billis on there talking about how like people should be thrown in jail for storming the court and it should never happen again. And storming the court's been something that's happened in college basketball. I was a part of one of my most fun famous memories was when we beat Nova and everybody stormed the court, and it was like greatest time, and that's what you go to college for those type of memories, and I'm sure every student that ran on the court will always remember that. So like it's tough to get rid of those cool moments, but they obviously have to do it in a safer way where the opposing team, because the home team with the fans, they're running right to the middle with the fans as well, and they want to get jumping up and down, but now you got to protect the away team. So whether you wait for 10 seconds or get a ton of security surrounding those players and let them get to the sideline and then back into the locker room, I think that's more of a resolution than hopefully I hope they don't, get rid of it altogether.
Do you know that Duke practices getting away from the crowd when they storm the court? Have you heard this?
Really?
Yeah, so they have actual practices like where like if you go to Duke, like they will practice, buzzer goes out and everyone has to sprint to the bench. And so what happened in this case is the dude that got hurt was on the other side of the court. So you can see their teammate sprint to the bench, but he was already down on the other side of the court, didn't get a chance to go to the bench earlier. But the fact that they practiced this knowing that how many teams might like storm the court on them is crazy to think about. I mean, I couldn't imagine practicing that.
You just practice losing, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. The other thing is if you wait 10 seconds, there was a situation in a football game where people were getting trampled because you wait and you try to hold the front stands from going down, and then everyone else is coming down uncontrollably and you're getting trampled. So, I mean, I don't even know what the solution is. It's insane. So,
yeah, I mean, they've tried to do stuff where I think now these teams get fined $100,000 in some conferences for having their fans charge the court. So obviously player safety is first and foremost, but I did think it was a little funny watching the takedown from Kyle Filipkowski, basically like torn ACL, bump knee, sprained ankle. He'll be fine to go. He's ready back to play on Monday, and it gets blown up out of proportion because it's Duke.
You know that fan was holding his breath the whole week, like, thank God.
Oh, man. Yeah. He's been on ESPN nonstop. Like,
he's been bed rest all week. Like, what is going to happen to Kyle?
Meanwhile, he's just thinking, I'm running out there as fast as I can to get to the middle. He probably didn't even try to, literally, Kyle Filipkowski, sticks his leg out into the kid. I don't blame him though either, because you're getting swarmed by a million kids. You're probably like, get off me, all this stuff. Yeah. And he probably thinks they're gonna, and they were talking trash. You can see that they were too. So no one's to blame, but you got to figure out a safer situation.
All right, last thing is, the Bucks are playing really well, but I just have to say this. There were a lot more eyes in the Bucks game last night, because did you guys see that the Real Housewives were courtside?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Did you see that, Chloe?
I saw the awkward interaction with Dame.
With Dame? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, tell me.
The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Hallie texted me and said, you better talk about this on the dinner table. And I said we would need to have her on as a guest to really break it down. But honestly, They all came to the game. I don't know why. I guess there might be an event they're going to in Milwaukee. So they came to a Bucks game on a Tuesday night against the Hornets, where the Bucks
Yeah.
just absolutely blew them out. I don't know. People are trying to figure out why the hell they're in Milwaukee for a trip or whatever they're doing. But yeah, Dame came over and was introducing himself in the beginning of the game.
And it looked like it was so forced. It was like someone just told them walking around the tunnel, okay, we got the Real Housewives over here. Like, you got to say hi to all of them. And they're all dressed in like these like flamboyant outfits. And Dave's like, oh, nice outfit, nice outfit.
They're all taking pictures with him pregame,
Yeah.
like taking selfies. And you got to watch the afterwards. They stayed for the whole game, surprisingly. And afterwards, they're shooting on the court.
Really? That's
Shooting
funny.
like, no, it's hilarious. It's like, it's the funniest thing ever. It's like brick, these like beautiful girls in high heels. Like, oh my God, it was funny. All right, I have to go. So I'm going to throw it to
Carly has to run. Everyone watching, Carly has to go. So the podcast is over.
Yeah, that's all.
We've been on for a while. We just finished up the interview with Maty, so I'm going to throw it to her. It's a great interview, and enjoy it. We are so excited to welcome in Utah sophomore guard and Beaver Dam, Wisconsin native, Maty Wilke. Maty played 2 seasons for Wisconsin before transferring to Utah, and she's off to a great season. We're so excited to have you, Maty. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Maddie, yeah, really appreciate you coming on. I think we have a lot of similarities between the Wilke family and the Marotta family. You guys are a huge sports family. We got a lot of sports in us too on our side. Obviously, your dad played basketball and baseball at UND. Looks like your mom ran track there, and then
Yes.
your younger sister is killing it right now at Beaver Dam.
Yes.
And then
Yep.
how many sports did you play in high school?
In high school, I majority played 2. So I had to join like golf, and then my freshman year I played softball, but it was just hard with AU, obviously, like in the spring.
Yeah.
And I never really played volleyball growing up as much as I wanted to, but my mom was like, you need to play another sport. And I was like, so I picked up golf. Not good at it, but learned it as a skill. So yeah.
Would you say that playing multiple sports, could you talk about that a little bit? I know that's kind of like a little bit of a hot topic right now for younger kids. They talk about, is it better just to dive into the best sport that they're good at, or to play multiple sports growing up? How do you think that helps you?
Yeah. Well, growing up, I was also really big into softball. Obviously, my dad played baseball, so I grew up like playing both softball and basketball. And I feel like it just helped me get a little break from basketball as much as I love being in the gym. It's just like being outside in different environments, and I pitched. So for me, like having that pressure as a pitcher and like learning how to handle those tough situations, um, I feel like that helped me even now in basketball, and just like meeting new people and like I said, different experiences. I feel like really helped me. I feel like nowadays it's like even my little cousin, like he's probably the only guy that I know that's still playing AU and baseball in the summer, which I think is really cool. I think it just builds character and puts you in different situations that you might not have like in one sport.
That's so awesome. And I kind of just want to get right into it and talk about Utah and where you're at now.
Yes.
I think this is so exciting for you. You transferred from Wisconsin. I knew you in high school, AAU. I feel like I've talked to you multiple times just about basketball and college basketball.
Yes.
So let's go into Utah. You guys just had a great win against USC, and this was your second win against them. So you guys are 2-0 against USC. You're playing for an 18th ranked team in the country, most likely going to be up this next week. Can you just describe like how this season has been for you and what it's felt like for you?
I mean, in general, it's just obviously like ups and downs, but I've just enjoyed basketball a lot more, and I've kind of been able to like be myself more on the court, which at first was kind of an adjustment because I had to be a different player at my previous school. So coming here, it was so nice to be able to be myself, but I kind of had to like recreate like who I was. So that was kind of challenging. But I think just being in like this environment with the people I'm surrounded by, I'm just so happy. I know beginning of the year I didn't play as much as I would have wanted to. But even just like talking to my mom, like I was struggling, but I was still like so glad I was here. And I just love my teammates. I feel like you can tell good and bad, like we're extremely competitive. So like sometimes when we're having bad games, like you can kind of tell we're all kind of upset. But I feel like the Pac-12 too is just like it's so fun to play against ranked teams almost every game, and just like that challenge of it, which having like knowing going to the game is like I could have a chance the team like could beat a number 7 team like at their place, where I didn't really have that opportunity before, where it's like, oh, like we play Iowa and I'd be so hyped, but I'm like, okay, like I kind of know how this, as much as I'm like optimistic about it, like I kind of know how this is going to end. So just knowing that the work I'm doing personally and like with the team, that like it matters, I feel like that also has kind of made this experience just like a lot more fun.
You mentioned finding your love for the game again. I feel like I've heard that a lot recently, thinking to like the Texas volleyball team. I feel like Madison Skinner was saying that too when she transferred, just finding the love again for the sport.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that and how you were able just to have fun again playing basketball?
Yeah. I mean, obviously I had my first year at Wisconsin, I was injured the whole year. And then obviously out of high school. So I feel like that on top of it was really hard for me. And then going into a new position with a new coach, it was just a lot of adjusting and like trying to figure out how I fit into that system, but then also like, okay, like I need to find myself. So it was just kind of a lot like in my head, like overthinking, just like trying not to think, but then like I need to think, but then like the balance of it, just like it just the whole system was just not good. And then put on that like stuff happening outside of basketball, it was just hard for me to like kind of be someone else, because I kind of like everyone knew me as I was like hurt for the first year, so kind of people had me in like that kind of silo, and I put myself in that too. So coming here, everyone kind of had like saw me as this like she could be really good. Like I remember playing her in high school, and it's just kind of like people saw me for like who I kind of was before I got hurt. So that made me be like, okay, like I'm actually really good. Like I can get better here. So I think that just like them seeing me as this really good player helped me be like, I can get to that point. So that helped me. And then just like practicing like the style of play just makes it better. Like I'm able to just, like I said before, I had to adjust to it again, and like relearn how I used to play. But once I figured it out, I don't really think anymore, which is in basketball, as you guys know, like kind of you can be your worst enemy out there.
For sure.
Yeah, I think I just also being around like my teammates all the time, like I actually enjoy spending time with them. And every one of them, like everyone's different, but we're always all together, we're eating somewhere. And I don't feel like, I mean, like a lot of teams have that, but not like as much as you would think. So kind of all of that put together just kind of makes me happier. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking like about your teammates, and I think confidence is one of the biggest things in college basketball, right? So like, it's always talked about. Like at where I went at Marquette, it was like the C word we said, because like everyone says it so much. We're not even going to talk about it. We called it the C word, and it helps so much when you have teammates that come around you and kind of build you up. So when you're not thinking as much on the court, or you're thinking too much, you can just go and chill with your teammates. And talking about your teammates, you have a very, very talented team. One of them being, up for National Player of the Year with Alissa Pili. And talk to me about your guys' relationship and like how cool it is to play with somebody of her caliber and kind of to be by her side throughout it.
Well, when I first got here, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little scared. I wasn't sure, like obviously her style of play and like just kind of her like demeanor, like oh, like I'm like, how do I go about this? But she's the nicest person I've ever met. She's extremely humble. Like sometimes I forget she's like one of the best players in the country outside of basketball. Obviously in the court, I'm like, okay. But no, just playing with her and having that trust in her, knowing that like if I give her the ball, like she's gonna make something happen, whether she scores or like kicks it out. And she's also a great teammate. Like if I'm kind of down myself or in my head, like she's not afraid to come up to me and tell me like, Matt, like you got to be aggressive. So I respect that. And then after games too, like I think we went to Alaska, and just the amount of fans she was able to bring in, and after games it's just like, I think we were at like Arizona State, and there was more like Alissa Pili fans than there were Arizona State fans. So like coming out of the locker room after games, and whether like we win or lose, I know like our media person, like, do you want to see them? She's like, yeah, well, like I think just the impact she's able to make in everyone, it just like puts things into perspective, I guess, not just like if we win or lose, but I think it just shows like how great of a person she is. And I feel like most people are either like super athletic or super fast or like 6'7", but she's like 5'10", like she's just so different. So kind of to be able to play with a player like her, I try not to take it for granted as much as I can,
Yeah.
but it's awesome.
I was gonna ask you that because she's listed at 6'2", and I'm like, there's no
No,
way. Like she's so
no, no.
undersized,
So that's
tough. Like
yeah.
yeah,
That's why I feel like the stuff she does makes it even more impressive because I'm like, you're basically my height going against like at no shorter than 6'4" every single game. So the fact that she's able to just do that it's crazy. Yeah.
and a little bit too. Like so, she transferred from USC. She played 3
Mhm.
seasons at USC, and now you guys
Yes.
are 2-0 against USC. And I kind
Mhm.
of saw like the video afterwards, you two in the locker room, and you're kind of like giving her a hug and like things like that. And what does it mean
Mhm.
to her to kind of beat her previous team? I don't know her relationship with them at all, but
Mhm.
I know there's probably something in the back of her head like, oh, that
Yeah.
feels good, you know?
Yeah. I mean, she never really talked about it. I mean, that's just kind of the person. Like, she's never said anything bad about them. But obviously, like, I transferred, so I kind of know, like, when you transfer, you never know, like, what exactly is going to come out of it. And so, like, to kind of, she performed well both times we played them, and to go back there for the first time, that was her first time playing at USC again. So it was just kind of like, she didn't say anything about it after the game. Like, she didn't make it about herself, but I kind of could just tell like how much it meant to her, and just kind of like knowing that she made the right choice. So we were all really happy for her. Yeah.
Maty, I want to say I'm so happy to see you, so doing so well on the court
Thank
and
you.
off the court. I'm wondering, what do you think about the transfer portal? I mean, obviously with Alissa and then you, it just feels like everything has fallen into place. So what are your thoughts on the transfer portal?
I'm not gonna lie, it's scary. Like, going into it, I never thought I would ever be in the portal. I was like, I took my high school recruiting. I was like, I want to pick a spot where I want to be. Like, I don't want to transfer. So the whole season, I didn't think about it at all. And like, I feel like that's what made it so hard. It's like, I mean, you guys know, like, you went to Marquette, like, that's kind of what you grew up doing. Like, you kind of just had like in you. So to leave and go in the portal, I was like extremely intimidating. And just like, I was questioning everything. I'm like, do I even want to play basketball? Like, I know I don't want to like be here, but I'm like, I don't know. Because everyone talks about like, oh, like if you transfer, like it's more of like a personal, like you're not tough enough, or like you got to see it through.
Mhm.
So to me, I was like, I don't want people thinking like this is what it is. But I mean, for me personally, I obviously like it helped me a lot. But I think for people that, I mean, when you're 16 or 17 making those decisions, you don't see a lot of the real stuff that goes on. Like, you don't really know what college basketball is. Like you said, like, yeah, you can be really skilled, but if you don't have the confidence or like the other intangible things, like, you're not going to succeed. In which I didn't feel like I could like have reached that potential that I saw myself. So the portal, I think, helped me, but I think it is a scary. I mean, I hear about people that don't make it out of it, and so that was even like, I'm like, am I even going to find a place to play? But like, my AU coach helped me a lot. My parents were there through it all, so I'm obviously grateful for it. Yeah, I think it's good for people that just don't have the right fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Maddie, that's really interesting to hear actually, because when anytime, like you mentioned, somebody goes into the portal, there's a lot of negative connotations behind
Mhm.
it. But then I feel like most of the time, or even like a majority of the time, if you enter the portal, you might just be looking for a change of scenery. And
Mhm.
obviously, Utah is a beautiful campus. They have a lot of the similarities as Wisconsin. Great football team, great athletics.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about Utah, and maybe outside of basketball, what you like about
Mhm.
it so much, and some of your favorite things to do on campus?
Yeah. Actually, through the recruiting process, I was looking more like also close to home too. But I'm like, I think just this time I need something completely different. I need to challenge myself, maybe even be away from family, which is good and bad at the same time. Um,
Yeah.
but even just like when I came on visit here, just like the scenery, the mountains, like every day going to class, so I'm having like a stressful day. I'm like I'm here, like it kind of just allows me to kind of breathe a little bit. And there also is just kind of separation between like school basketball and like outside. Whereas like Wisconsin's kind of like all jumbled into one, so it's kind of a lot going on. So I feel like just like the environment is just a better place for me where I'm able to have separation between like basketball and school. But I think just being in Utah, like my teammates and I, like we in the summer we go hiking, we go like to like national parks, spend a lot of time outside as much as we can. So it's kind of that. I don't know. It's a lot different, similar in like you said, like the sports stuff, but I feel like even just the people are just a little different as well. But I think it's good for me to just get out and kind of find myself rather than just being like kind of said before, people here know me as like someone different than I was at Wisconsin, which is kind of nice. It kind of gives me like more room to grow without feeling like that pressure of like I need to be this person.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes sense. Do you find yourself still cheering on the Badgers at all? I know you still have friends on that team.
Mm-hmm. I do watch some of their games, yes. I'm not gonna lie, it is a little like different because I'm like I know them extremely well and like I feel like I know what they're about to run, but I'm like but how it's just kind of a weird yeah, it's like a weird perspective, but
For sure.
I still wish everyone the best. Like some of them will reach out to me if I played good, like I'll reach out to them. So I don't think it's anything like that, but yeah, I'll watch their games when I can, and like I said, I still wish them the best and support them. So
yeah, that makes sense. And I figured, looking at the Pac-12, obviously you're playing in a really tough conference. Can you talk about how good these teams are that you're playing night in and night out?
Oh my gosh, I think it's so cool. Like I said before, like having the opportunity to play like the top 25 teams every game. The hard part about it is you can't have like a bad game. You can't even play like decently, because if you are just good, the other team is gonna like. I mean, we've had 30-point losses, which hurts, but like I mean, we didn't play good and they played really well, and I think that's just like the reality of it. But I think it challenges you to like you have to be aggressive every play. If you mess up on one of the scouting reports or you go under the screen, they're gonna make you pay for it. So I think just like for me personally, it just forces me to be better every day. Like I can't settle. And then as a team, it's just like every game is so hyped up, which is so exciting because it's like I know growing up watching college, like women's college basketball, I was like, okay, the better team is always going to win, probably even by 30. Number one seed's always going to win. So now kind of have that parity, it just makes it like so fun to even get those upsets. Kind of just makes it all worth it. Mm-hmm.
You guys also have had the most top 10 ranked wins this season out of any college team. And you come from a program that hasn't necessarily had that in the past. So can you kind of talk about like the difference between, you know, the locker room, the practices, the camaraderie between your teammates and coaches, the difference that you've been seeing now at this level of a team?
I think the biggest difference is I actually never thought about this before.
It's a good question, Chloe.
It's a good question. I think, well, first, everyone here has the same goal. So everyone here is like, we know, like we want to potentially get to the national championship game. We want to get to the Final Four. So that's kind of like what we want to do, and everyone is like locked into it. And on top of that, it's like everyone's doing what they have to do to like be their best self, but as like it's not so like selfish. It's in a way of like, how are we going to help the team, which I feel like is extremely hard to do. Like the locker rooms, like I don't know, we're all like silly and goofy, but practices are extremely competitive. Like we'll do rebounding drills, we'll do shooting drills even, and if like I know yesterday we had like a little competitive drill and someone shot it at like the last second, the buzzer, like a little bit after the buzzer, my team lost. So we were all like not arguing, but I mean, we don't like to lose. So I think the competitive edge of like the practices is just extremely different. And then obviously the depth of our team is insane, as well as like all the other Pac-12 teams. But I feel like knowing that like you have to earn everything, every like minute you're on the court, you have to earn it. If you're not playing well, like another guard's going to come in for me and they're going to do their part. So I feel like those two things, just like the depth and like the competitiveness, are just like I wouldn't say they didn't have it at that level, but it's just like a different like intensity.
Yeah.
You talked about maybe not playing as much as you wanted to at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a game this season that you feel like kind of your breakout game where you're like, okay, I'm back, like I feel healthy, I feel like I'm Maty again?
I think for sure the Stanford game. I think just defensively I was more engaged, and I feel like that's when I'm more like defensively engaged to the game, I can get myself going on offense. So I was able to kind of make plays, and just kind of like the gritty plays, like diving on loose balls, like getting nailed on a screen, like those type of things that I didn't have, kind of like got me going. And then I hit some big threes. So like just knowing I could do that against Stanford, I was kind of like, I legit felt like my chest kind of like I could breathe again a little bit. So like that helped. Just like my confidence just kind of kept going after that, and like holding myself to that standard helped as well, because before I was like, am I really, not like questioning it, but like there's sometimes I was like, am I really that good? Like, can I get back to that place where like I knew I could get? So that game was kind of like the new standard for me.
What would you say it's like playing at Stanford in front of Tara Vanderveer, Cameron Brink's on the court? There's so many good players. Would you say that's one of the toughest places to play in the Pac-12, or what would you put?
I've never played. We didn't play at Stanford, but but playing them here, that was hard because they're so like composed and like do things like everything right. And I'm like, how do you like? I know what you're gonna run, and you still like it still works. But I think the hardest place to play at was, I mean, it's hard because every place we go to is almost sold out, which is really fun. I mean, the Arizona fans were pretty brutal. They were, I mean, kind of the older generation, so they kind of were unfazed with what they had to say. But also Colorado, I mean, obviously because they're like our rivals. I mean, they sold out for our game too, and it's hard in the Pac-12 to play on the road because everyone gets a lot of fans, so it's hard to like when they're on a run. I mean, you guys know, like get a little tenser, and like how do you kind of use that crowd in your advantage? So I honestly think all the top 25 schools that we've played at have been extremely hard and challenging.
Nothing better than playing in environments like those, though, right? I mean, I'm sure
it's so fun. It's so fun.
Yeah. Maty, obviously you're a great 3-point shooter. I want to ask you, is there certain things that you think about with your shot? I know you talked about not trying to think at all, think much at all out there on the court, but like even when you're practicing or when you were growing up, developing your form, is there certain things that maybe your dad or your mom passed along to you?
Well, when I was younger, my mom was always like, quiet your feet. She's like, sometimes my brain goes a little too fast. So she was always like, quiet your feet. And then just like my follow through, obviously, they're like, I can tell when it's going to be short. You don't hold your follow through. But like now, I feel like when I'm shooting in the games, especially, or even in practice, it's like, for me, my mindset is like, stay aggressive. So I don't really focus on like my form as much.
Yeah.
But I think now that I'm like at the point where like I feel comfortable and like confident with shooting, it's like every time on the court, I'm like, I gotta be aggressive and like kind of hunt for my shots.
Tell you what, that
like,
must be. Oh, go ahead. That must be a good feeling.
Yes.
Because I've never really played basketball thinking I got to be more aggressive out there. And only the great players got to have that mindset, which is awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said before, and like you mentioned, it's like the combination of like thinking, but like not thinking too much about it. So like I kind of figured that out. So now it's just like, for me, it's like I need to be more aggressive because when I'm passive, I'm like thinking too much and like analyzing the game, which I feel like is a strength of mine, but also like can hurt me as well.
Yeah, 3 threes against USC. That shows that you weren't thinking much at all. So good job.
Yeah, thank you.
How has your coach, do you guys call her Coach Lynn Roberts, or do you say like Coach Roberts? Like I never really know.
We usually call her Coach Rob.
Coach Rob. Okay, yeah. I was kind of like trying to figure that out. But Coach Rob, like how do you feel like she's helped you with kind of your mindset with shooting or just being more aggressive? You know, she's the reigning Pac-12 Coach of the Year. And you, like I mentioned before, you're playing against these top coaches in the league. So how has she helped you?
I think just in general, she's extremely competitive and fiery coach. Which for me, I love that because it's like it's real, and it makes me like if she's gonna run through a wall for me, like I'm gonna do that for her back. And even like sometimes it gets a little much. Like she's not afraid to get on the refs, but like I said, like I love that. Like if she's gonna fight for me, like I'm gonna fight for her. And then personally, like kind of beginning of the year, I was like I said, like kind of struggling, like finding myself again and like fitting into the system and being like assertive on offense. She kind of just she still held me to like that standard, and she was still confident in me. So her confidence, whether she like it was real or fake, but like um just like having communication with her and her believing in me and knowing that like this is hard and like I understand, but like you're still really good. So having her knowing that she trusted me just made me be like, okay, like maybe I can do this, knowing that she is a really good coach and she gets these really great kids in. So just kind of listening to her and trusting her just kind of helped me find myself, I would say.
All right, we have a couple more for you. I want to ask, heading into your first NCAA tournament, I know how are you feeling? How are you feeling?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It's like kind of surreal a little bit because I'm like the past 2 years I was like watching it and I was like, okay, like what if that was like I was like, oh, I wish that was me. Like that looks so cool. Like even just like the knowing like the seed and where you're playing, like that stuff just looks like that's what I grew up watching. It's what I've like always dreamed of is playing an NCAA tournament. So just like that excitement around it. And kind of like everyone has a clean slate. Like, yeah, there's rankings, but it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm extremely excited. But everyone on the team, like I said, has been there before. I feel like they're kind of like composed about it and like, yeah, this is business. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like coach is like, yeah, like it's March and we're still playing. And I'm like, oh. Yeah, I'm so excited.
A lot of teams talk about just like the difference in February that you like change your mindset, your team gets going. Like these are the most important games in February leading up to March. And have you kind of felt that from your team, just like the turn up in February and like becoming a different team and getting to that point where you're like, I'm ready to go?
Yeah, I feel like this week was kind of like a realization, like we only have 2 more regular season games left. And after the UCLA game, we actually had like a very truthful, honest team talk about what each person like needs to bring, which I thought was like a little overdue, but obviously it helped for USC just knowing like what each person brings, what each person like needs to continue to do to kind of make the team better. So obviously the 30-point loss to UCLA was not perfect in regards to it is end of February, but I think it's just like perspective on like, and then beating USC, like we can be really good and we can be really bad. And it's kind of like, what do you want to decide to do? And it's kind of like, if we want to be connected and we want to play hard and play aggressive, like we could be really good. So I think as much as we had ups and downs, like we know what makes us good. We know what makes us bad. So I feel like that going into March is going to help us a lot.
We wanted to ask you about NIL, Chloe. We've been talking about this, how just like crazy the car thing was. Chloe, you know even more about it, so go ahead.
Well, it's just like I saw it on Instagram and all this stuff, and I want to know like the background. So, okay, let's just give like the people viewing like a little background into it. So, gymnastics, men's and women's basketball, right? Those are the 3 teams from Utah. They were a part of this NIL where they were able to lease a car, and athletes were given the option to either lease a 2024 Ram or a 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee. And like, so you walk into the arena, like, did you know about this? What did you decide? Did people end up leasing these cars? Like,
So football actually got theirs. They were the first team to do it, which makes sense. So they had theirs in like the fall. So when we got the call, we're like, is it? And like some people heard like some like little murmurs about it could be a car. I'm like, there's no way, like a car. Like, are you serious? I'm like, I've never. So like I was kind of like had it in the back of my mind, but still like seeing the cars in front, I was literally like, that's like mine. Like I could be driving that. And it's like, so I decided to do it. So I got like a Jeep, which when I first got it, I was like, I'm like scared to drive it. Like I don't want to touch it. I'm like, this is almost, I was like, do I even need a new car? Like I feel like I shouldn't be driving a brand new car as a college student. So like it's such a great opportunity though, especially for like a lot of us live off campus, so obviously we use the cars a lot. But it was just like I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, I play for a top 25 team and I have a new car. I'm like, this doesn't make much sense, but I'll take it.
Yeah, sounds like a good move.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
This is my life. What did your
Yeah, I
love
your
that.
parents say? Were they like, yeah, lease the car?
Yeah, they were like, because I was like, I said before, I'm like, do I need it? And they're like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, okay, I guess I do. But yeah, they were like, I mean, I don't know, just to have like a brand new car, like legit brand new, never been driven before. Like I never like thought of that, and then never thought about it like in college. And my parents were like, you drive a better car than me, and I was like, I'm sorry, like. But no, they were super supportive, and like they wanted me to do it too, because they're like, you deserved it, like all this work, like you deserve to have something extremely nice. So yeah, it's still crazy though, I'm not gonna lie. It's
pretty surreal.
Yes.
Last question for you, because I know you have to get going. Your sister's playing in the tournament right now, the top seed with Beaver Dam. I know you guys have a close relationship. So what's your advice to her as, you know, she looks to win a state championship?
I mean, I talk to her a lot, and she's a lot different than me. So like I'm kind of the focus, like mentally in it, and she's kind of just like goofy, like makes TikToks a lot. Like, I mean, I make them before, but usually it's like a couple hours before, and she's just like 30 minutes before tip off, like she's singing. Excuse me. She's like singing and dancing and warm ups. So I think for her, it's just like understanding like you don't have a lot of games left, and just try to enjoy it, because like when she's having fun, she's a completely different player than like when she's like tensed in. I can tell when I'm watching her, and I was like, just be aggressive, kind of like I tell myself, and you continue to be a good teammate. I know it's hard, like postseason. Their team this year has had a lot of changes with the new coaching staff, so I feel like for her to kind of take on that leadership role kind of be hard to like balance her team as well as herself. But I just thought like just be yourself, like you're gonna win if you give it your all. Like at least like at the end of the day, like you can say like I had no regrets after it, because eventually like your high school season is gonna end. But yeah, I feel like for her it's just like just be yourself, don't be someone you're not. So
yeah. Gabby Wilke needs to tune in to the Dinner Table podcast, listen to the end, hear her sister's advice. That's so cute.
No more TikToks 30 minutes before the game. Only an hour before, like Maty does.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Maty, thank you so much for your time. We've been so excited to talk to you. You were so great and open. So we so appreciate your time, and we're supporting you, and we love watching you kill it for Utah.
Thank you guys. This is so cool. And like I know you guys looked alike, but it's kind of like having all three, and like I'm like, this is so crazy.
I bet you when you first came on, you're like, what the heck?
I know. I was gonna say something right away, but I'm like, I'm just gonna wait. I'm like, but I knew you guys had like looked extremely alike, but this is just a little different.
Throw all three of us at you at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.